Let's get into understanding how our nervous system works. So in previous videos I've talked about the polarity game, the polarity of life, how everything in life is charged. It has plus or minus charge. Plus we could call it yang energy, minus we could call it yin. Plus we could call it daytime, minus we could call it nighttime. Well, guess what? Our nervous system has the same thing going. And a healthy nervous system knows how to respond in both those polarity shifts that go back and forward. And most people have problems with nervous system function nowadays when they become diseased or weak or sick, because there's usually overstimulation of the active part of our nervous system, and there's not enough nourishment of the passive part of our nervous system. It can go the other way in certain situations, but generally nowadays most people are so stressed out because they don't get to balance those two halves. And this also comes back a little bit when we start to talk about the circadian rhythm, which is the day-night rhythm in our brain, in our body, and of course our nervous system. So let me break it down a little more for you. So in the morning, when the sun rises, the masculine energy, the yang energy, in Chinese medicine they use that word, yang, rises. So we get an actual lift in cortisol and adrenaline. It's meant to be there. And we need a little bit of that because that's the stimulating active part that says, wake up, get going, time to rise. And you'll see it in children. They want to get out of bed early if they're healthy. They want to get out of bed early and they want to get into the day as soon as the sun comes up, because their body is responding to that circadian rhythm. Daytime wake, nighttime rest and sleep. So during the day, as we're giving off that energy, this positive charge that we've gathered during the night, we burn that up during the day. The fire energy is doing that. And that's healthy, and that's normal and natural. And then as we grow to adulthood, that same method is supposed to be happening. It's just that we begin, because we gather tension and stress and we accumulate, that natural surplus, that natural charge in the battery of young energy, active energy, isn't quite as good. And so we don't often then, when we end up getting tired and exhausted and we get the flu and we get stressed out, we don't get a good natural build-up of these healthy hormones that we need and this charge of energy to carry us through the day. And so people end up with too little levels of cortisol, too little levels of adrenaline that we need. And so we start off the day going, oh, I need a coffee to get me going. That's the first sign that our body's out of kilter, that we haven't got enough of that plus charge of energy that the body needs. So we coffee up to get into the day. And I'm not having a go at anyone. This is pretty much most of us. We all go through this at times. But it is an indication that we're out of balance. So what then happens is we use that amount of energy, which tends to run out, usually after lunchtime. So we're usually feeling a bit tired and weak and depleted. And that was me many years ago, because I didn't know how to replenish that energy. And so after lunch I'd be like, oh, I'm stuffed. And a lot of people who work in, particularly in office type jobs, they want to have a doze and a snooze. And in traditional cultures, as we get older, they honoured that process and they said it's okay to have a siesta, have a power nap, have a nana nap, have a grandpa nap, call it whatever you like. Because they realised that that supply of positive energy or masculine energy needed a little top up. And how do we do that? We have a rest. So particularly in the more active climates of the world, where there's lots more sunlight in the summertime months of the world, then there's more daylight, there's more light. We're getting triggered to give off that energy. And so there's nothing wrong with us having a rest after lunch to replenish and top that up so that we can go through till dark. So again, if we follow what nature's telling us, we're following that circadian rhythm, then we don't get sick, or we don't carry the stress that eventually creates illness and sickness. So what happens is we go through the day, and then when we come to the end of the day, afternoon, late afternoon, if we haven't released that energy properly because we're sitting in a chair, or we're stuck in an office situation, or we're frustrated, we're not able to move properly and breathe, we're not breathing well, we're not circulating the energy through the body, then some of that energy's just got stuck in the body. So we're not only are we tired, but we're also stuck. And so what do? We go home and have a beer. In Australia that's very common, in many cultures, or we'll have an alcohol drink. And what does that do? That brings that active energy down and quietens us, so that we can feel relaxed. And as they say in Australia, it's beer o'clock time. It's time for us to just relax and forget about the day, switch off, because it's been full of stress and tension, and our nervous system's built up all this charge of energy that it's now got to try and dissipate. So we say that, in technical terms, we say that we've been sympathetic dominant. That just means too much energy that hasn't been properly burnt away and used. So by the time we get to the night time, it's now getting dark, and it's time for all that energy which should have been used up for us to relax, and it's dissipated naturally. It's time for us then to quieten down as the daylight hours diminish and decline, the nighttime hours kick in, so we're finished with our serotonin in the day, and now it's time to produce melatonin. And that's the nighttime neurotransmitters. That's the ones that we need to help us go, hey, steady down. But what do? We tend to sit in front of screens too much, and we're still getting the blue light stimulation, which is saying, no, stay on, keep going. A lot of artificial lights, LED lights, overstimulating our nervous system all the time. So by the time it's bedtime and we hop into bed and we're ready to go to sleep, guess what? We can't sleep. So that's why a lot of people are looking for something to quieten them down, because they're still overstimulated at night when their body needs to be in that more relaxed yin phase after dark. And so one of the cures that's done traditionally for a lot of people is, if they're really wound up and stressed and they can't sleep right, go camping. Go and get back in touch with the circadian rhythm that naturally wants to wake us up when the sun comes up and quieten us down and rest us so we can go to sleep after dark. And that's why a lot of Aussies love going camping, because it's their chance for their body to reset itself and come back to that natural rhythm, so that we're active in the day when we're meant to be, and then we're calm and quiet and rested and have a restful, peaceful sleep. And as we get older, that becomes more and more important for us to do that, to live longer and healthier. So bottom line, if you're tired, rest. If you got too much energy, go do something with it. But don't keep overstimulating yourself with too much mental activity after dark. Sure, watch something nice, but put on some blue blocker glasses and don't get too revved up. Allow your body and your brain time to go into rest mode. And preferably shut all the screens down and put your phone out of the room half an hour before you go to sleep, so that you can just allow that melatonin to kick in and let your system go into that yin restful phase, so that you can have a deeper, restful, recharging sleep.